All right, I'm going to give you my James Lipton question. Charles Bukowski said, "Find what you love and let it kill you." How does that make you feel?
You know what? I think it's too much on this find what you love thing. Find what you're good at, right? Because if you're good at it, you will love it, all right? Because here's the problem with find what you love, okay? If I had my way, I would have been the next Steve Howe, okay? I didn't have anywhere near the talent to become the next Steve Howe or anybody like him, okay? So find your love is a stupid piece of advice if you're not fucking wired to do what you love. And what if you're only a teenager and, you love, I could go on about all the different examples, right? But if you can find what you're good at, it's kind of fun to be good at something, and people will pay you for it and you get accolades and promotions and shit like that. It's just like, oh, I kind of like being good at things,
Hi, I'm Ben Goodman, and you're listening to 2020. And if you haven't figured out by now, my compatriots are Cory Peza and Siobhán Cronin.
That's us.
Hi, guys.
Hi, can you see me? It's so dark here.
Even a week later, still didn't fix it after a week, Siobhán. It's crazy.
Yeah, like what the hell? Get on that shit. Like what kind of girl doesn't have like a selfie light?
It's time for a new
honestly,
one,
you
guys.
need to get your priorities straight, girl.
Apparently.
Shit, coconut oil solves all the problems. But this week, the guy solving all of my mental problems, wondering what the hell's going on with all the retail landscape after the COVIDs. We have Joly, who also proclaimed that there's going to be a civil war, which, to be honest with you, with the winds outside, I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, this was a pretty wild episode. We went a little off the rails and talked about some interesting things. So
some eclectic topics for sure.
Right.
So check it out, part 2 with Gene Joly. Hello and welcome to another episode of 2020. We are so happy to welcome back our guest, Mr. Gene Joly. Old industry dog was the way you described yourself in the first episode.
For 68 next month, I think I earned the title of Old Industry Dog.
Well, you certainly don't talk like an old industry dog in the best of ways. You have a lot of amazing stories and super sharp. I mean, your memory is incredible, though. I sent a message to Ben and Cory over the break, and I was like, wow. It's amazing. I feel like you recall stuff with so much accuracy, way beyond like what my brain can even handle. But
some things don't get me down one of those alleys real quick. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, so annoying. It gets worse.
But anyway, in part 1, for anyone that hasn't listened to that yet, get on it, go check it out. Part 1, we got into a lot of interesting, a lot of Gene's background, talking about merchandising. We talked about the Beatles. We talked about everything. Can't even describe it in one sentence. But one thing we started talking about on the speaking of musicians and releasing music is kind of this saturation of songs being out there, and you were talking about how people might only listen 1 or 2 times to a certain song. Then the discussion of, is there still good music being produced? I wanted to talk a little bit about market saturation. Maybe it's not the right term, but what does it look like when you're at Guitar Center and there are other companies like Sweetwater or Sam Ash or other retailers that are doing kind of in a similar space,
eBay, Reverb.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear how you handle that when, there are all these other retailers popping up. What does it look like at a place like Guitar Center, dealing with that competition?
Yeah, I think the key is figure out what you can excel at and then just double down on doing that. Don't try to be everybody else. Sweetwater has one retail store in Fort Wayne where they're headquartered. It's an amazing store. All right. They do a killer job there and all that. I know the management there and we talked like any plans for retail. Like, no, we do this store because we have a local clientele. They drive from hundreds of miles away and all that. But we do what we do. This is our singular focus. If you go back to the late 70s when Chuck had a recording band, and people wanted to buy it. They loved his service. They wanted to start buying stuff from him. He just basically started selling products and just built a mail order business with phones and catalogs and eventually a website and all that. And just 40 40 plus years, just consistently continued to grow his concept and improve his concept. Didn't go off in a million different directions, and built one of the most successful companies in the history of the music products industry. And just basically sold his shares recently for quite a bit of money. But this gets back to the strategic thing. The Sam Ash family started Sam Ash Music in the 1920s, so they're approaching their 100th anniversary. Primarily a retailer. They do some e-commerce, but primarily a retailer. They've been about 50 stores, primarily the East Coast and the West Coast. Some stores in between. But they've got a very successful formula. It's a family-run business. Ash is still working the business, and they're very good at it. They're really good stores, highly respected, and shopped in the markets where they exist. GC's ambition was always to be the coast-to-coast retail. In the early days, the folks who really built the business after the founder, that was their vision, and it was very difficult. They weren't professional retailers. They didn't know what the hell to do, but they pushed and they brought people in and they kept trying. So GC's cornerstone is the stores, but they've gotten very good at e-commerce, and as a result of having to support e-commerce, they've got contact center, and that also supports the stores as well. So they're really the omni-channel giant, where they cover all those bases. And then you've got I love going around the country and walking into an indie store that's run by an owner-operator who's got the lights on, Manchester Music Mill up in Manchester, New Hampshire. I just never even walked in there till recently. And
Joe Lacerda.
Met Joe, a good friend of mine, died in May, and his widow was left with a broken heart and a lot of music gear. And we helped her out sell some of it, but realized that the rate it was going was going to take 11 years, which she didn't have. And so somebody suggested I call Joe, and Joe came down and spent a few hours and gave her a very fair deal and hauled it all away and all that. So he's built this incredible indie store up in Manchester. And there's stores like that all over the country. So they're all completely different business models. Don't try to be something you're not wired to do, and you don't have the resources to do. Find your niche and do it really, really well. So that's the success formula is find your thing and commit to it and really, really stay true to that. And when you try to be what you're not, or you're all over the place, unlikely to work.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, and that obviously applies to just about anything, whether it's retail or music or, But yeah, I always wondered that because, like Ben mentioned in one of the previous episodes, having gone into Guitar Center, sometimes you see there's not a lot of stock on the wall or something, and you're wondering what's going on, and then another store's got a lot of stock. So I always wonder, how the different other businesses interact and how it affects what goes on at Guitar Center or Sam Ash or Sweetwater's, because to a lot of us, the people that are buying the product, it's hard to know how those things actually work behind the scenes.
Yeah. The biggest problem keeping guitars on the wall right now is sales are vastly higher than supply. Demand is vastly higher than supply. So that's you've heard all these stories about containers off the port of LA and not getting unloaded fast enough. It's affecting many businesses, including the guitar business.
How about the ukuleles? What's up with the ukulele? Everyone in the freaking world wants a freaking ukulele. In fact, I believe it's the #1 instrument on the planet, so it's not a recorder anymore. I know people in the music.
Can you stop saying
retail,
ukulele, please?
I know people that sell ukes that say that in the last year or 2 years they've sold more ukes than 30 years combined. Joe Lacerda, I'm sure, being one of them. Why?
It's a phenom.
Why the uke?
It's so simple. All right. It's cheap, it's portable, and it's easy to play. So my 14-year-old granddaughter, who I'm giving guitar lessons to, started on the uke, just went on YouTube, got a uke, went on YouTube, started figuring it out. Before you know it, she's playing songs on the uke. Okay, she required no help, just something that was very easy for her small hands to handle. I can take it around with me on family trips, and so forth. So it's just like, dude, it's super accessible, $100, easy to play, and highly portable. It's the perfect instrument for getting started. Now, why it took all the years it did to become as popular as it is beyond me, because it's always been there. It always had this potential. And there's I've heard a lot of hypotheses on why it suddenly took off. I remember when Paul McCartney played something on the ukulele in the concert for George, I think it was 2004, so 17 years ago. There was an instant huge spike in ukulele sales, right? But that was just one thing.
That's the Beatles thing.
It was a Beatle, right? So not to be discounted, right? Then there was this Jake, whoever's face is the Hawaiian guy, or Chinese guy, phenomenal.
The dude who does Over the Rainbow?
No, that's a different guy. No. This is the virtual guy. Right? This guy, okay. The Nuno of ukulele, right? So that guy got a bunch of other people interested. It seemed to like just things started feeding on each other, and now it's got this momentum because there's this whole thing in retail and manufacturing. The more something that's out there, the more momentum it creates for other people to jump on it, right? You want, when you launch a product, you want to get units out into the field because other people can go, where'd you get that, right? And then there's this whole knock-on effect that happens. So something happened with Ukes where it kind of reached critical mass, and it's pretty unstoppable right now. But I think the fundamentals are that it's inexpensive, portable, and easy to play. 4 strings, not 6. So you can get your head around that pretty quickly. And by the way, my granddaughter, who's progressing rapidly on guitar, she developed, the hand, like her hands were used to all the stuff there. So it was a very easy transition to guitar for her.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me ask, so kind of going back to merchandising or, working in retail and deciding what products to sell or carry, as being a lot of people that aren't, actively, playing music all the time, let's say, how do you stay in touch with what musicians want or what is going to be successful? I'm just curious how you figure that out, because for me, I'm playing music all the time. I know what I want, but maybe if I worked in industry, it might be a little different. So how do you stay in tune with that?
Well, in retail, it's fairly easy because you've got the stores. These are all active musicians. Think of like a trader on the floor of the stock exchange. Like they're in the nerve center of all the action, right? A salesperson on the floor. I mean, to the point where manufacturers are going to the stores all the time, picking the brains of the floor staff because they're talking to customers all the time. They get the phone calls. They have their finger on the pulse. So you've got active musicians talking to other active musicians, and they're a great source of information. The manufacturers are a great source of information. They're doing their research and so forth. And the merchants, it's their job to know. So they're following the industry trade publications. They're following what's going on at the artist level. You've got to watch what the artists are doing because any major artist starts using some new guitar, some new amplifier, whatever, suddenly you see a spike in sales because, when I was a Steve Howe fanatic, I had dual showman just like Steve Howe. I had a Gibson ES-175 just like Steve Howe. I had a Maestro fuzz phaser. Just like, I had to have Steve's rig because I wanted his sound. And I didn't want to be any risk that I couldn't get his sound. So whatever. And Benny, you've lived this yourself, and it's just very, very common in the industry. So, I
thought you were going to end this story with saying that you didn't sound like Steve Howe, regardless of the fact that you had a showman and all the delay. Because here's what I did: like you could play through Eddie Van Halen's rig, and I'll play through it, and I'll tell you what it sounds like. Me, and that sucks.
I could get a pretty good Steve Howe sound. Oh God, I tried so hard to play this.
It's in those Skeletor-like hands. Like he literally is a crypt keeper, but he knows, like you see him and now he comes out on stage, he's like Bob Barker's older brother. And he just comes out there and he's literally a skeleton. And the ES-175 does not behoove him. Like it's literally ridiculous. But he plays and you're like, how does this guy know? And I imagine he's one of those guys that if he had Alzheimer's, he could still play all the Yes catalog, but not know where he was. Because he just literally is so programmed to play these ridiculous things.
He's such a phenomenal guitar player. But, when I started down that path, I was like 17. I didn't know I didn't have that talent. I'm like, I'm going to give it everything I got, and I worked really hard at it. And after 3 years, like, I improved. But it's like no, I'm not fit to wash his shoes, okay? And, and so some people at that level. I mean, Steve Howe, one guitar player of the year, the readers voted him number one 5 years in a row. And then they created this rule that if you win 5 years in a row, you're retired now, you can't run anymore. So then Steve Morse won 5 years in a row. It's like the Nunos. These people they're just like superhuman, and it's great. It's inspiring. It's a lot of people inspired, revved up to play. Nuno says he heard Van Halen in '78. He's just, oh my God, what is this, right? So Eddie, how many fucking players did Eddie create? It's just like people just going, what? So it's just one of the magic components of this industry.
Yeah. As someone who started off with the musical background, throughout your career, how have you kept the music side of your life in parallel with that?
Very difficult. Very difficult. Yeah. When I left Boston, I advanced pretty quickly in the industry after that. Boston was like a learning thing. It didn't make any money, but long learning thing. But, going from Boston to Florida to Southern Cal, Oregon, back to Southern California, and then, changing, I don't know how many studios I put together and then had to rip them apart and move. So it just got in the way. I just did not get to play. We would have jams at my house. I keep my hand in it, but for a long time, I didn't get to play that much, and certainly didn't get to record, songwrite, all that. I was doing a lot of writing in the late '80s, early '90s, and I didn't write anything until 2 years ago. So now I'm making up. Now I'm retired, so I'm talking to you from my rig right now, and so I'm in here every day, and whether I'm writing or I'm just playing my guitar or tracking or mixing or studying about mixing. My God, what a rabbit hole that is! There's so many branches to it. Right?
Cory's like, preach, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the career thing, at post Boston, it became very difficult to keep my hand, firmly in it. So
are you excited now that you're retired that you can go back and do music? Because I feel it's like one. So first off, if you were playing Steve Howe, let's just start with, you're probably pretty damn good unless you're just delusional, because those songs are intense, man.
Yeah. Now,
what's it like now getting back on the saddle?
I don't have those chops anymore. I think something happens with your, whatever, the hands and all that. I won't get those chops again, and I don't want to. It's not what I want to do. I'm mostly interested in, I want to do two things. I want to hang out with friends and play Beatles tunes and other songs from the 60s that we love, and I want to write and record stuff. So that's what I've been mostly doing. I had my prog era. I loved it. I still love that stuff so much. The Steve Howe, Bruford, Wakeman era, yes. Fragile and Close to the Edge, just like, still just astonishing. Will hold up forever. I got to see Genesis when Peter Gabriel was the lead singer. I saw him 4 times.
Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Like
that's Genesis to me. Not like Peter Gabriel, not Phil Collins coming out and hobbling and able to play drums.
And Steve Hackett on guitar. And by the way, I saw Steve Hackett's touring, doing all this old Genesis stuff. So I'm in L.A. Oh God, one of the venues in L.A. about 3 years ago, and it was just stunning. So that era, that's why I say my brain, 65 to 75, so much of the stuff I love is, I grew up when Zeppelin hit, Hendrix hit, Cream hit. Like, I go back and go, like, how did that happen? It's like,
it's wild, yeah.
Unbelievable, artists who just set such a high bar. It's so much fun to listen to. What was the question?
Yeah. Who knows? We're always asking.
I want to know what your new music sounds like. So it sounds like you progressed from progressive. So now that you can't play like a shred master, what you said you want to play like happy Beatles music, but what are you writing? What does the Gene Joly original sound like?
Stuff has become more political, more personal, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think out of the box. Honestly, Chris Cornell inspired me with Euphoria Morning. Like, I don't want to write the same shit I used to. I want to do different stuff. So one of the techniques I use is I'll just play and I'll just start freeforming on different riffs and all that. If something starts sounding good, I'll just record it on my iPhone, and then I will purposely won't listen to it for a month. And I have a bunch of that stuff. Then I go back and listen to it later, because a month later you'll know whether it's shit or not, right? Like in the moment it can be good, but then it's not. So I start collecting those, and a bunch of that stuff has ended up in songs. Sometimes 2 of those riffs end up in songs. So wow, this fits with that. Weird. And my weakest thing is lyrics. So I've been working a lot harder on lyrics. But I'm primarily interested in the craft of writing and recording music, and that's what what I would have done had I realized, when I realized I wasn't going to be Steve Howe. I have all this passion for music. I would have focused on that. Decent singer, but I think I have decent songwriting chops. I've been told by other people that I do, but that's a craft. You just need to practice it. You need to do it. You need to put the 10,000 hours in. And I have time now, so I do it, and I have friends I collaborate with on it, and it's great. A lot of it's solo, but some of it's collaborative, and it's a big learning curve. So I don't have to rip my rig apart. Well, not true. I ripped apart my California rig to move to Boston. I'm now in an apartment in Linfield, and I will rip it apart again in January when we move to our new home up in Methuen, and that'll be it. My wife and I have a pact. One or both of us will die there. We are not moving again. All right, that is it. End of journey.
Yeah. So can I ask, did you choose to retire because you wanted to pursue kind of getting back into music, or can you talk about why you chose to do that? Or
I retired a year earlier. When I went to work for QSC, I made a 5-year commitment, and I at the end of about halfway through the 4th year, a couple things happened. First of all, I needed surgery on both of my feet. I get this plantar fasciitis, and it's a long, boring thing, but incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And I need to do that. And then I had to go to a trade show, and it was just in chronic pain. I'm in sales. I'm trying to be standing up, talking to dealers and so forth there, and it was just brutal. So that was happening. My grandkids, my oldest grandchild turned 14, and my wife and I looked at each other like, this time is just going by so fast. So, and then the political situation, I decided to get heavily politically involved in the 2020 election, and I said, you know what, I can't do the job and devote what I want to do. There's these other things, and so I would put it at the top of the list. Take care of my health. Close behind is spend a lot more time with daughters and grandkids, and the third thing was political. Pretty closely clustered, though. That these are like 3 big priorities. And so Joe Pham at QSC was cool about it, and he put a woman in charge of sales I was in charge of the Americas, and a woman who'd never been in charge of sales, but super talented, very accomplished in a number of other areas, said this would be a good portfolio growth thing for her. And so I got to spend 4 months with her, and she's just absolutely killing it in that position there. So it was a perfect transition. We didn't have to bring in someone from the outside who might or might not work out, but a superstar from the inside, and just expanded her portfolio. And I think it went extremely well. So I felt good. Felt good leaving. Like it's in Anna's going to take care of things, and she absolutely has. So.
Nice. Do you still have your toe in anything as on a consulting type of basis?
No. That's one rule I made is like, no. It's because then you completely violate all of the things you're talking about. Like, it's not about the time you spend in the consulting work. It's the time your brain is engaged in trying to figure shit out. That's the shit that wakes me up at 2 a.m. That's no. Like, my brain has enough stuff. I need to discipline myself. No. Like, how many months have you been after me to do this? Okay. The only fucking reason I did this is because I like him. Okay. And I don't know why I like him. Okay.
We ask ourselves that question every day.
But he's funny. He's super talented. And he's a cool guy. So, I don't do this kind of thing because it's like, I got to get out of my comfort zone. I might say something wrong. I'm going to get canceled. No. I can't get canceled. I'm retired. Fuck you.
There's our episode title.
There's a really important question in that, because, as somebody whose brain never stops working, what's it like now you're retired? What wakes you up now? Because I can't imagine that your circadian rhythm just stops, where you just go, okay, cool, I'm done with corporate life and doing this forever. Or do you just wake up and go, I can golf now? Like, is your brain still going? What's driving you now?
All right. So what you're really asking a question about intensity, right? And intensity doesn't change. You are who you are. You're wired how you're wired. So I'm going to be intense until I die, right? This is the way it is, right? I'll be a slower version of intense, but I'll still be intense. And that's what I think. What wakes me up at 2 a.m, and has for a long time, is the emerging civil war, okay? And this is where we're headed. And that's not, and I used to think that was some people just overstating it and the boy crying wolf and all that. I don't think that anymore. I think there's too many guns. There's too much acrimony. I think January 6th was a dress rehearsal. And there's just too much crazy shit. And there's good people on the polar opposite of my perspective who like, would they shoot me? Or would they? It's like, I think they would, given the right amount of, remember, like Nazi Germany was not Nazi Germany until Hitler won the election in 1933. And so he's suddenly shutting down the media. He's destroying the courts. It's a one-party thing. And before you know it, the brown shirts on the street, crystal knock is going on. And, the rest is history.
That
right?
didn't happen.
Right. Exactly. That's what we have.
Everyone's a crystal knock. Hold on. Listen, I really want to ask for real because Cory is hyper intelligent and Siobhán, she's like a show-winning horse. She knows everything. Do you know what crystal knock is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course. So you say of course. Cory, do you know what crystal knock was?
Okay,
because I feel like that what they teach in schools nowadays, like I know my 16-year-old that lives in my house absolutely has no idea anything about that because they don't teach it anymore. I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a very progressive like arts school that had a lot of Jewish people. So I think probably the education I got was a little bit, not your standard American public school.
And by the way, if anyone was conflating the fact that I was being sarcastic about the Holocaust actually happening and all the precipitating factors, I'm joking. It's sarcasm because I want to be clear that crystal knock, for example, is something where in one night the whole area was just completely just taken apart by people in hatred because somebody was so smart they were able to control them all mentally, and they became so divisive. It literally was people friends against friends just because they were a religion. It was out of control, and it happened in one night. They fucking raided the town. They pillaged. They raped. They lit things on fire. They broke stuff. Stole art.
Well, the word came from smashing the windows, right?
Correct.
It's Night of the Broken Glass, right? So but you say it happened in one night, but it was 4 years building. Shutting down institutions and basically getting the propaganda out there that these are vermin. Jews are vermin, and they must be exterminated, and so on and so forth. And so when you start turning people into vermin and scum of the earth, and so on and so forth, you're setting the stage. And this is how one side is talking about the other right now. It's like, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, I used to think people were being over dramatic and so on, so it can't happen here and all that. And I'm sure a lot of people in Germany thought the same thing there. Now, we didn't have the destitute economic condition. We don't have the destitute economic conditions that the Germans had, which made, Germany ripe for those conditions there. So you have to be careful not to get. But when I look at the amount of guns in the hands of the citizenry, when I look at social media, I look at what talk radio, Fox News, and so on and so forth are doing to create a parallel universe that has, tens of millions of people, totally bought into, what, I think we need a fucking revolution. Then, that's the shit that wakes me up at 2 a.m. That stuff right now is, it's just nutty.
You know what's crazy is that if you go to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, which is the hand of God, or it's the Holocaust Museum, there's a big saying, a quote that on the wall from Heinrich Heine in 1820, that where books are burned, human beings are also destined to be burned. And even though that's a 201-year-old quote, the same mentality still exists, even with cancel culture, because we're literally just burning the books. That's exactly what we're doing. There are people that are saying you can't read To Kill a Mockingbird because they use the N-word, or you can't read all these classic, Gone with the Wind, for fuck's sake. That's racist. Obviously it's racist. It's supposed to be about racism because it was in a racist time. What the fuck?
A story about racism is not racism. And anybody in the room who's saying it's racism knows damn well it's not racism. Telling a story about racism is not racism. It's exposing it. Okay, it's telling the story. It's showing what happened. Mm-hmm. It's insanity.
Yeah, you referred to the emerging civil war, and I guess how do you feel in terms of social media and the media in general being a magnifying glass on a microcosm type of situation, as opposed to what's, it's a big country, hundreds and millions of people. You only see a small piece of that through the media. I guess how far along that emergence do you see things right now?
I mean, I'm listening to this woman from Facebook who's testifying every day on what she knows about what Facebook knows on the inside. There's this big rebellion brewing inside Facebook. All the employees are going, we're a horrible company. We're doing terrible things to America. In the name of profit, they don't want to change the algorithms because it's going to reduce their revenue and profitability in the stock price. It's really that simple. So, U.S. government needs to regulate this sort of business here. The government has regulated businesses going back over a century when they get too powerful and or corrupt and or fill in the blank. But this is a very unusual situation here where a company like that with 2 billion users, and many of whom are active on a daily basis, learns how to manipulate the likes and the dislikes, the angers and the likes and all that, and they know how to get things accelerated into polarization. And so I'm not blaming them for all of it. There's no way they're responsible for all of it.
I blame the death of Nate Dogg because he's not around to regulate anymore with Warren G. Did you catch that one?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Right,
no, there's a song called Regulators from the 90s with it's Nate Dogg and Warren G. And Nate Dogg, may his soul, we miss him.
Yes, thank you for that contribution.
You're welcome.
I would miss him if I knew who he was.
No, I knew you wouldn't get that one, but it was just funny because there are going to be people that go, wow, he went deep.
You're right. I deserve that.
Yeah, leave it. I was going to say, leave it to Beaver. Why don't you talk about Dennis the Menace, dude? Or maybe Looney Tunes. Look, can we talk about that? Or how about Tech Avery era Tom and Jerry? That's some crazy ass shit, dude. If you watch those 1940s, 1950s Tom and Jerry shit, that's definitely racist and some crazy ass Nostradamus bullshit that wow, they don't show it anymore because, even if you talk about the Looney Tunes, you can't have Speedy Gonzales, you can't have Pepe Le Pew, that's not okay. He's going around smelling like shit trying to rape everybody. That's not okay anymore, apparently. But it was cool for a while.
Oh my god!
I don't know where I was going with that, but I liked Pepe Le Pew. He had a cool thing going.
Well, yeah. Coming back to social media, even as a bystander on Facebook, right? I'm pretty surprised on a daily basis with the vitriol that I find there and only there.
Word.
How people get very worked up and very angry about stuff very quickly. So it's wild. It's scary. I totally agree. The way people talk to each other.
But don't you think it's an exponential level of yellow journalism, Siobhán? Because I feel like the whole concept of yellow journalism or whisper campaigns, it's basically like whisper campaigns, except there's just exponentially more, and all the fucking crazy Looney Tunes can be there are other crazy Looney Tunes that believe the Earth is flat and that there's fucking dinosaurs concurrent to human beings. Holy shit, there's someone like me, and there's groups and there's thousands of them. And it's a whisper campaign. And that's what you're seeing on Facebook because it's they're posting a meme and they don't realize the meme is it means something deeper than their brain can even handle.
I would also say, and in my experience, about 80 to 90% of the people that are super passionate on social media about their cause, if you talk to them in person, that falls away immediately. And so this is why I'm saying, and I've said this on the show before, we are incredibly ill-equipped to be a political discussion show. But as far as the actual
I can't throw a punch.
Intercommunication thing.
Are you telling us to shut the fuck up on this issue?
Not at all. I just want to make sure the audience knows that at least I am very stupid. So anything I say, take with a grain of salt.
You're absolutely right. People are paper tiger. Online they're all vitriolic, and you get in the bar, it's a completely different vibe. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is definitely.
I have friends that are on the opposite end of the political spectrum that post some very post those memes and those statements that they forward with much conviction, and then like you said, you sit at a bar and I go like really, and they're like, well, not like that, but I kind of feel that, and then it's like I think people need to hash it out a little more. It's like the YouTube comment section. No one would say half the shit they say if they were worried about getting punched in the face.
But I think that like we're really in a good place though, as far as we could say it, we could put it out there, and if people want to agree, they can either share it or they can turn it off, which is a really cool yet terrifying exponential concept, because now everyone has the stage, and it's just a matter of which stage you want to look at. And so now the playing field is leveled, whereas you used to have television and you had radio and you had a newspaper. Now anybody can go live stream a fucking crime or shooting someone, and it's all happening probably right now. And that's the crazy thing is who even knows like what's going on next? It's scary.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. Well, how do we get back to what was the topic at hand?
I did have a note from the first episode that I wanted to jump back to, because I saw a little bit of passion sneaking out of Eugene when you mentioned thieves. As a retail empire, they're going, was theft such a big part of what you had to deal with that it warrants that reaction?
Unfortunately, the worst problem is employees, and some of the worst times of my life were finding out that somebody had ripped us off. We'd take a physical inventory and find out there were 4 Sony DAT machines worth $2,000, each, missing, along with, lexicon reverbs and blah, blah. Hire an investigator, figure out what it is. And it's just like, it's just stab in the back kind of stuff there. So the shoplifter, when you remember when Whirls was on Newbury Street, right, Benny? Right. So
yeah.
I used to chase people down, Mass Ave, just come in and grab a guitar, run down the street, whatever, usually unsuccessfully retrieving the guitar. But, you have that sort of stuff there, and there's ways to manage that, but really more internal theft was the, more the heartbreaking, frustrating, part. Because usually, you're working shoulder to shoulder, so usually it's this fraternity, sorority thing, and then somebody's ripping you off. So that's the worst.
Yeah. Was that something that was considered even, or at least discussed when you were at the higher levels in companies?
Oh yeah. This Guitar Center has loss prevention department, to deal with that. And all big retailers do, because it's just, if you're not constantly figuring out what the latest thing is and have ways to manage it, you will get eaten alive. So yeah, it's the real world.
Yeah. No, I remember when I was growing up, my mom used to talk about the store that she ran, and she did like high fashion women's retail. But that's the same thing she mentioned was the hardest part for her as a small business was when she had to leave town to go on a buying trip, and it was employees that were mostly stealing. It was not really the people outside that were taking stuff, but, coming back and realizing stuff was missing. So it's interesting to think about when you have to scale up your business and you're, having multiple stores across various regions of a giant country, having to deal with that sort of thing, and who can you trust and how do you manage that, Yeah.
GC put a cycle counting protocol in place after they started expanding after going public in the 90s, and theft was a huge problem. The CEO promoted an employee named Laura Taylor, who built a whole operations loss prevention infrastructure in there, and part of that was cycle counting portions of the inventory every week. So you wouldn't go a whole year taking a physical to find out you were missing a lot of stuff. And it was also very beneficial making sure the stores were replenished properly, because if the computer said at 11 you only had 3, that's a problem. You're going to run out. Well, what do you mean we have 8 in stock? No, those are all ripped off. So there's ways that you can use technology / manpower to help manage the situation there, but it must be managed. You cannot just hope is not a strategy for handling for doing loss prevention. You've got to have processes and personnel to handle it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about if you are someone that maybe wants to open up a small retail store, like a small music shop or a guitar store or something with music equipment, is that something that you think is a feasible idea now, dealing with all these big, massive companies where you can order stuff online? I mean, is that something that people can sustain? And what sort of advice would you give to someone that maybe has that idea of opening up a smaller, privately owned shop?
Grant Sheffield left Guitar Center 2016, not of his own volition. It was after Aries took over, and they made some personnel cuts. So here's a veteran regional vice president, 25 plus years with the company, and so he opened his own shop in Dallas called Tone Shop. It's been done so well, he just opened a second shop a few months ago. All right. And I see this all over the country. So if you are a go-getter, if you're passionate about musical gear, if you like talking to people, and you give a fair deal, it's a great industry. It has, it continues to expand. The global financial crisis was a big exception, but since the Beatles, I mean, this industry just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. It's a wonderful thing. I think the more guitars to offset guns, it's a good thing.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think guitars are an investment? Like, do you because I always tell people, and I full-heartedly believe this, that my guitar collection is my 401k. I get to play. And people make fun of it, but I have literally, like, on paper, made a whole shit ton of money if I were to sell. That's not an investment if you don't sell. Yeah. But do you think that, like, people talk about it, but, like, do you consider buying guitars at this point, if you know what you're doing, an investment? Or is it like Bitcoin, where it's like a total gamble, but still apparently an investment?
I consider Bitcoin more of an investment than a guitar. Okay. Bitcoin, if you understand the mathematics behind Bitcoin, if you buy a small amount of Bitcoin now and you hold it for 10, 20 years, the likelihood it'll be worth, many times more than you pay for it is pretty good now. Okay. And it's been a long road to get here. Okay. And I don't want to get off on that. I have very limited expertise on that. Guitars can be an investment, Benny, but you have to become what you are. You have to become an expert on all the years, the models, the pickup configurations, so on and so forth there, that most people don't have the interest or the time to really dive into. So unless you're willing to become one of those people who's astute enough to really understand what the hell it is you're buying and, the past, present, and future of that guitar, I don't recommend it. But some people I know are into it, you're one of them, and have done very well with it. Elliot Rubinson, that I worked for at Thoroughbred, was a big collector and had a lot of great stuff that over the years, he told me how much he paid for it in 1970. I went to work for him in 96, and it's worth like literally 15 times what he paid for it, right? So that's a great investment. But that's very specialized, and so it's not for the average person.
It's Brian, my twin brother, calls me the truffle pig, which I think is a very accurate metaphor, because amongst the shit, I find the fungi that cost a lot.
Is that your new credit at the end of the episode, the truffle pig?
Yeah, I don't know. Now
actually,
I don't even remember.
That's a good one, Cory. Add that to the queue of stupid things that I do.
With pleasure.
Thanks, man.
Well, I don't know how to get back to where we were before, so Ben derailed us.
One word at a time, Siobhán. One word at a time. It's a long road. Just remember that Joe Walsh will never guide you wrong.
Correct.
She's like, I don't know who that is. Canceled. Life wasn't good for her. Do you know who Joe Walsh is?
Yeah.
I know the name. Am I embarrassing myself?
No, it's great. It's adorable. You're literally adorable for not knowing who Joe Walsh is. But
you have years of discovery of Joe Walsh ahead of you.
Okay, I'm looking.
See, the
right
thing
now.
is, but I'm the inverse. So where you're discovering the new music, I'm discovering like Dvorak and like other Bachs. Like there's more than one Bach. There's 10 Bachs, and some of them are good. Like I love, like, Siobhán has actually turned me on to a bunch of classical music, because I feel like that other than jazz, which is just like musical surprise.
Did he have like 16 children or something?
Who? Sorry.
Yeah, a lot.
Bach and Bach have like 16 children.
Oh yeah, and they were all with like different people too. I'm sure.
Nine were composers, right, or something. It's like yeah. Think about that.
It's wild. Yeah.
What
different era. Yeah, the rock stars of the 1600s.
Exactly.
So, what are your plans, moving forward with retirement? You're getting a new place. Like, is it just to keep writing and, enjoying the music side that you've had to put on hold?
Yeah, the main reason we moved back to Boston, we love Southern California. We have a lot of great friends there. It was hard, making that move.
Beautiful out there, man. Beautiful.
Just everything about it, and it's a very expansive state. The mindset is progressive and it's open, and it's just everything about it we love. So we tore ourselves away from there. We're here because our daughters and grandkids are here, and we get a lot of family and friends here as well. But it's just like we made the move for daughters and grandkids primarily, and while we're here, we're just retirement is not slowing down; it's just shifting focus. So music has been my love since the Beatles, and so I'll play around with that. I'm a birder. I'm into birds. About 5-6 years ago, I got into bird photography, so I'm learning that. It's a cool new thing. I didn't know shit from Shinola about using a camera, but
it's just a triangle.
I got decent with a Canon PowerShot. So a year ago, I bought a nice rig, Canon EOS 90D with a Sigma 150 600 millimeter lens.
Just make sure that there's as much bokeh as you could possibly have, so you look artistic, and only like one little bit is in total focus, and it makes you seem profound. I've learned that.
Yes.
People don't know that. That's a trick.
I've learned that.
Cory's just laughing so hard. He's like, "Is that the only thing you can come up with?"
Yeah. So that, and I golf is something I enjoy with friends, and it's an incredibly difficult thing. Hardest thing I've tried to learn. It's like guitar, you get to a certain level and you're at that level. Golf, you think you're at a level, and then you find out, no asshole, you still suck. You just fall off that level, and now you.
What's that dude's name?
Wow.
Who's been ruling golf since the dawn of time? Like, isn't there just one dude that literally, everyone's like Michael Jordan or LeBron, and there's this dude
Tiger
in golf.
Woods?
No, way more than him. You know who I'm talking about? He just always wins. Everything is just that one dude in golf.
Tiger Woods.
I just don't care about golf
That's
at
what I
all. So
thought.
other than Alice Cooper, that's pretty much where my
For
golf
the last 20
knowledge
years,
ends.
it's been Tiger Woods. We don't know if he'll golf again. He got into a bad car accident
Oh no,
many months ago,
not
and
Tiger.
screwed up his leg. Yeah, he did. But yeah, he's a phenom. He's the two greatest golfers in my lifetime are Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking about tennis. It's Federer or whatever.
Oh yeah. Different
Yeah.
sport
Yeah.
then.
No, I crossed my wire. That's how little I care about sports as a whole.
Yeah.
I literally am so disenchanted with sports that I can't even seriously make a joke because I'm thinking about Michael Jordan playing baseball. And he did, but it's not really a thing.
Yeah. They all have balls. Okay, so I can see the confusion.
Yeah, just don't be Ted Williams.
Anyways, question?
Yeah, no, just kind of seeing what your plans were, but I guess a good place to leave off our last 15 minutes here is throughout your career, if you could maybe impart some wisdom on our viewers and listeners, to those that want to get into the same space that you were in, the retail merchandising and that, and then maybe do want to actually try to climb that ladder and have that influence and
Are you
control.
asking him to consult?
For the moment,
Briefly for the moment, yeah.
Briefly, some
Through
some sort of
catharsis. Just catharsis. Okay. Is that okay, Gene? Can we ask you through cathartically?
I think you're
consult?
talking about osmosis, not catharsis.
It's transcendental, right?
Forget it.
Transcendental. So I don't recommend my career path to anybody because it was completely unique, and
Yeah.
some of it just happened, and it was just I fell madly in love with somebody when I was 21, and we get married and started a family, and I took a complete left turn, and I was working in a music store, and when you look at it, that's not a business plan. It was a combination of love and persistence and good fortune and super hard work. All right. So one advice: work your ass off. Okay. I don't care whether you start your own store, whether you go to work for another company, whatever. You want to go places, you got to work hard. And anybody who tells you work-life balance, forget it. There's no work-life balance for any meaningful period of time at least in your formative years, you've got to pay your dues. You got to work hard, and you got to learn, apply yourself, right? And I would say the other one is like work with good people, because whether it's the boss or the people you're working with and all that there, first of all, it's more fun. You learn. And when I say good people, not just like good as in, a charity. I mean, good people, kind people, smart people, collaborative people, people that you're going to like working with every day and you're going to learn from, and you're going to grow. It's a whole, collaboration thing I was talking about before. Like, you get ideas, you bounce things off people, they bounce things off you, and just like your brain grows, and your skills grow. And it's just like the days go by like that because you're with your people. So I guess another way of saying that is you get into a bad situation. Sometimes you get to stick it out for a while, but you don't want to do it for too long. You want to get into a better situation, and sometimes that it's going to mean maybe moving back home for a while or whatever. But work with good people. Man,
on that note about the situations, you mentioned that you've uprooted and moved around multiple times through your career. Were there any times where that was either a difficult decision, or was it all just the opportunity that came up?
I spent almost half my career in Boston, and then first half of my career roughly in Boston, and the second half, primarily on the West Coast. So I left Boston in '96 and retired in 2000. I should know this off the top of my head. So that's 24 years. I had a 45-year career. So yeah. So the second half of my career was the moving part. Boston to Florida to Southern Cal to Oregon to back. And every one of those things was a move up, was a move up, was a move up, was a move up. A bigger opportunity, growth opportunity, and all that. And it's hard doing it. My poor wife had to engineer every one of these moves. You're ripping your studio apart. She's ripping her cold studio apart. You're having to disconnect from friends. You have to find all new doctors and at banks. Mm-hmm. It's just a colossal thing. And it's just a price you pay, to get the opportunity. And it's difficult. It's part of that working your ass off thing. And if you're not going to do things if you refuse to do things that are inconvenient, I'm sorry, there's just things that are going to come along that you're not going to be able to do, So, and sometimes that's fine. There's a bunch of opportunities I turned down, and over time I felt I made the right decisions because it was mostly because I had unease about the person, or like the company who was talking to me, and or the culture. There was just something about it. Like, I'm not sold. This could be a big step backwards. I'm not doing this.
All right, I'm going to give you my James Lipton question. Charles Bukowski said, "Find what you love and let it kill you." How does that make you feel?
You know what? I think it's too much on this find what you love thing. Find what you're good at, right? Because if you're good at it, you will love it. All right. Because here's the problem with find what you love. Okay. If I had my way, I would have been the next Steve Howe. Okay. I didn't have anywhere near the talent to become the next Steve Howe or anybody like him. Okay. So find your love is a stupid piece of advice if you're not fucking wired to do what you love. And what if you're only a teenager and, you love, I could go on about all the different examples, right? But if you can find what you're good at, it's kind of fun to be good at something, and people will pay you for it, and you get accolades and promotions and shit like that. It's just like, oh, I kind of like being good at things, And so just find out what, and like, I didn't know I was going to be good at retail. I was like, hey, no, but my drummer's like, can you run the warehouse? Like, what? I want to do that. And so, but then it led to, being able to be on the sales floor and then my boss said, hey, this guy's get some skills. And so then he lets me, my first merchandising thing. Gene, you're in charge of microphones and effects pedals, in the late 70s, Benny, right? That's a pretty cool time to be in charge of. I'm buying
Tom Schultz coming in, telling you what's up.
Yeah.
I got a photo of Tom Schultz handing me the first Power Show, before he did the Rockman, right? It's just like I'm in magic land, So anyways, the find what you love thing is a little dangerous because there's just too many. It's really more about find what you good at.
So my James Lipton response to that is, so basically what you're saying is find what you're good at and let that kill you.
Such a nihilist.
Kill you.
There was a great message there, and you ruined it.
Let things kill you. Letting things kill you is not good advice. Do not.
Right, exactly.
But
Nietzsche disagrees.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong to pushing yourself beyond your limit and finding out, okay, that's beyond my limit, and then dialing back. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, are you guys aware of a professor named Scott Galloway from NYU Stern School of Business? Okay, so he's all over. He has multiple podcasts. He sends out really good email. Just look him up, Scott Galloway. Write it down. Okay.
I've seen him before. Yeah.
Scott,
write it down.
Scott clarified for me several years ago the whole bullshit about find what you love, and gets more. And he way more eloquently than me goes down the whole path of find what you're good at. And I think it's a message that we need to be repeating.
Do you think it's because it's any of those like cliches that are boiled down to oversimplified don't really hold up to scrutiny? Because you could say that I guess a lot of people, maybe if they're open to being tangentially related to what they love, they can find opportunities and follow those paths. Because you were technically not doing the music, but you were in a musical element, and you got to meet people that were musicians and hang out with them. So you were still somewhat in that range.
Not really. I consider I was serving musicians instead of being a musician. Very, very okay. And what allowed me to serve musicians was not my being a musician. It was my being organized, having a head for business, choosing to do the work, to go to school, to have all the courses and so on and so forth there. And the fact that I'm serving musicians and talking to the people who were simpatico, we have a lot of the same loves and interests and all that, was just like so freaking cool. In other words, I wasn't a retailer selling appliances, or hardware. I was selling musical instruments. So that's where I came from. So I got lucky that way. I got to work my entire career in the music industry. But working, serving musicians, whether it's on the manufacturing or the retail side, completely different career than being a musician. Listen to Nuno stories. That's being a musician, okay? Mm-hmm. Sleeping in the fucking rehearsal space, on the fucking, cases, with rats, and having no money. And when Burger King comes out with a 2 for $1 thing, it's this, this gift from heaven. It's just like being poor, taking the vow of poverty, and just whatever. That's, and I don't know how many musicians I know who just they really, really gave up so much to get to the certain level there. And most of them didn't make it, okay? Most of them didn't make it. So tell that story, okay? Do what you love, okay? Well, do what you love, but just be prepared to have, the fucking concrete smashed into your face, at the end of a decade of putting all that stuff into it, But no, just know that, dude, I'm willing to make that, all right? I'm going to do that. I want to give it all I got. And don't be 30 and going, God damn it, I wish I had given it all I got. Well, while you can, do it all you got. But don't pretend, you're guaranteed to make it at the other end because of this small percentage, right? So I didn't be a musician. I served musicians. No regrets. I did it because I was at a point in time where I knew I wasn't going to be Steve Howe. I knew I was madly in love with my wife for 46 years. And I was the oldest of 8 kids. She was the oldest of 6. We wanted to raise a family, and we went down that path fast. And I was fortunate I had something I could pay the bills with, and it was interesting, and I could grow it. That was just fortune, good fortune, hard work, but also good fortune.
Yeah. What an amazing journey you've had. It's so great to hear from you, and you have great advice, and wow. I don't even know how to summarize it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you taking your time.
Have you dumbfounded?
Well, I love this because, again,
myself.
So everybody knows that NAMM is a place where people go to showboat in this industry, and I got to tell you, I've seen Michelangelo Badio, I've seen Jeff Loomis, I've seen John Petrucci, I've seen Paul Reed Smith, and I got to say, when I first met Gene Joly, I've never seen a dude with more reverence around him, with people just like, oh, that's him, that's the guy. I swear, we had to swim through the crowd to get to Gene. And he has a demeanor that when you're at NAMM, which by the way, it sounds like NAMM, like Vietnam, because there's fucking drummers all playing drum circles simultaneously as guitars are all playing guitars simultaneously through loud amps and synthesizers. And then Gene's just yelling and people are just all trying to soak it in. So I just want to say thank you, Gene, for coming on, for getting me my first set of QSC K12.2s that have served me righteously, and for just being such an illuminating person where we don't understand a lot of this stuff, especially being on the other end of the mirror. So it's pretty cool, man. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, and never again. But glad.
Back to Crystal Knock.
Never
again.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, with that, you've been 2020.
Did this, but somehow we did.
Yeah, oh my God.
No, really.
2020-d.com.
Subscribe, please.
Essentially, instead of me saying what people should know about, I need to go ask people what they want to know about. Say, what can I do for you? Not what do I think you need, but what do you want? And then take whatever it is that people are wanting. If they're wanting reaction videos, okay, well, how can I make those reaction videos give a twist to it and make it something that I really value, which is musical appreciation and vocal appreciation. And so the first one I did was a breakdown of a bunch of Fifth Element diva dance singers. And I said, okay, well, this is like how they're doing it, and this is what they did here, and this is why this one's so cool, and this one's so cool in this way. And then that's when it started the ball rolling. So I think like a really big blocker to a lot of people is putting out content that they say, everyone should love this. And instead sort of turning around and saying, what is trending, and how can I make that something that is unique to me?